everyone, this is Rich Burgeon, the Assistant Program Manager for Employment, Education, and Outreach for the Veterans Outreach Center. I just want to be able to introduce to you today our good friend, Kevin from Hvac, also from Hvac, a spin-off company from Hvac. He'll be talking a little bit later about Hvac, but right now, Kevin, I wanted to get a little bit involved with you, if I could, and discuss a little bit about Hvac's history and where they came from, what they do, that kind of a thing. Are you able to give us a quick rundown on that?
Sure. So Hvac Heating is a company in Rochester, New York. They've been around for 75 years. Now has 7 branches throughout Western New York, and does commercial and residential heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration, in addition to new divisions in plumbing and electrical.
Wow. The headquarters is still here in Rochester, correct?
Still here in Rochester, yeah.
Nice, very nice. Well, what positions is it that Hvac would be hiring for at this point in time?
So traditionally and continually, we're looking for entry-level service technicians and installers, as well as plumbers and electricians.
Great. Are the positions that you have available right now, do you have any kind of descriptions that you could go along and give
Sure.
people a couple of examples?
Residential, we have multiple jobs within the department. So a residential HVAC installer would be somebody that goes into your home, puts an air conditioning or furnace system in. They work on about a dozen different pieces of equipment. They go into houses and occasionally, maybe duplexes, but it's traditionally in the single-family home market. We have residential service technicians that then go into those houses and work on the equipment that was installed either by our technicians or others and do maintenance and repairs. The service guys are generally potentially on call 24 hours a day because there's always a need for HVAC. And so that's part of their job would be going to someone's home, potentially in the middle of the night, getting up out of bed, going out there and getting something fixed in the middle of the snow, and getting everybody back up and running and moving on from there. In the commercial side, we have the commercial installation department. Those guys are primarily working on new builds, large residential facilities, kind of like dormitories, barracks, if you will.
Okay.
200-300 rooms where they go in and potentially go to a job site every day, same job site, sometimes up to 2 to 3 years. So it's the closest thing that we have to an 8 to 5. It's usually more like 7 to 3, but it's a fixed job, fixed site, required to drive there on their own vehicle, and it's more of a construction job. To support that department, we have a commercial service division that goes back and works on all that equipment that was installed, either by our guys or somebody else. And so traditionally, our commercial service guys will do anything from the buildings that I was just speaking of, to maybe a Walmart or a Sam's Club or something like that, where you're up on the roof, sometimes in the snow, working on the equipment in the elements, whether it's 100 degrees or negative 10, we're up there working on it. So you got to be okay with heights and a lot of outdoor work. A lot of driving involved in that job because we drive around most of Western New York to support different facilities at different times. We also have the insulation division. We're the largest insulation contractor now in I think in upstate New York. And so we have guys that go in and do the weather sealing, water barriers, mold remediation, adding in the blown-in cellulose, all that kind of stuff. And those guys do a lot of driving, crawl up in attics where it's all hot, go down in crawl spaces where the conditions can be kind of tight. So you got to be flexible, ideally small.
You got to be a little bit tough.
You got to be tough. So we're looking at, generally those guys are going to be 150 pounds or less because you're up in an attic.
Right.
And we don't want people falling through ceilings.
Good point. Good point. No matter what, it's all skilled trades, and there are qualifications, I'm quite sure. So can you kind of give us a rundown on the qualifications?
So most of our positions are starting out as entry level. We would provide the training to get the specialty qualifications, but at the most basic, almost every job we have requires a driver's license, which is not hard to get for most people, but obviously that's something that comes into play. Not a commercial driver's license, just a regular Class D, being able to drive a service van, something like that. As you move on in the training, having EPA certification is something required to work with refrigerants, but if you don't have that, it's not hard for us to get somebody trained up to do that. All of our training programs have that built in.
Super. So can you describe the training program a bit?
So we we have quite a variety of training programs. The initial program that we started was called Hvac University. That was developed by the Hvac family over 20 years ago. They saw a need to create skilled technicians in the trades, and that the community colleges weren't doing it at a fast enough rate. So they hired a community college instructor, brought him in. He began developing a program which is now nationally certified. So anybody who takes classes through the Hvac University program can get college credit from our partnership with Monroe Community College for some of the classes.
And how long does it take to go through the training?
So we have, again, different levels of training, much like people in the military may have been through. We have boot camp. So we start off with that. It's 12 weeks. It's 4 weeks of concentrated kind of crash course, colors and numbers, fully hands-on, fully engaged, potentially after hours, so that they get a good idea of the basics of basic electricity, gas heating systems, and air conditioning, and then we have a final week just to kind of round out the competencies. And during that program, it's not just sitting in seats, looking at slideshows and listening to people talk. We have some in the classroom, but it's usually 1 to 3 classroom to actual lab work, with a minimum of 2 days a week actually in the field, working with guys side by side, so you get a chance to see, is this a trade that you really want to be part of? We have an evaluation process in all of our training, so that not only are you being evaluated on your traditional skills such as attendance and engagement and academics, we're also looking for an assessment from the field. Is this what you want to do? Are you showing initiative? Are you showing an aptitude for it, a desire to be part of the program? 40% of the grade of our program comes from the field.
Wow.
The guys that you're working with get to weigh in heavily on how well you're going to do and whether you're going to be a good fit for our departments.
It's a pretty good percentage. So the big question then, how much does all this cost?
So that's the best answer I can give you, is it costs you nothing, and usually on the flip side, we pay you to come in to train. So just like when you went to basic training, you didn't have to pay for that. You got a paycheck at the end of every month. We pay every week.
There you are. Can't beat that. Trades are where it is these days. A lot of college-educated people are out there looking for jobs, but they've accumulated a lot of debt along the way. And the one thing that you're offering is there's no real debt that goes along with this. So I think that's a pretty good program. Can you tell us a little bit about the actual employment process itself?
So at Hvac Heating, the basic process is to fill out an application, come in for an interview. We have a preference to veterans that anybody who has served will automatically be granted an interview.
Super.
Not necessarily a job, you've got to earn that, but we'd be happy to support our country and our best by having you come in and at least see if we can do something for you.
That is a fair shake. That's really great that you help them vets like that. Much
We
appreciated.
currently have 40 veterans out of the 375 employees in the company.
That's a very large percentage, very large by company standards anywhere. So I'm glad to hear all this. Now, one thing I did notice also when I was sitting here with you is your shirt, your iTech shirt. Can you give us a little bit of information on iTech?
So iTech is a new enterprise that was started by the Hvac Heating Company, and this is to take our training program to the next level. Most of what I've talked about already is about training programs for Hvac employees to work at Hvac Heating or one of the divisions of the company. We realize the needs are greater than any company can actually supply, and that most of the community colleges are able to provide, so we have created our own training facility. The Hvac family has invested in a giant building out not too far from the main office. We have 30,000 square feet, of which 10,000 square feet are classrooms and 20,000 square feet are labs. And so we have a lot of specialty labs from gas heating, air conditioning, basic electric, plumbing, oil heating systems. Then we actually are taking it to the next level and getting into the construction trade. So we're going to be teaching carpentry and framing and masonry and all that stuff, roofing, insulation, the whole shebang.
Fantastic.
And we realize that to make it real world, we want everything that we have to work on is truly operational. Again, with the idea of 1 hour in the classroom to every 3 hours in the lab. Hopefully not an hour straight in the classroom. Everybody wants to get their hands on stuff. And to make it as real world as possible, inside of our building, we actually built a house.
That's pretty good. So Calvin, that's pretty good. My understanding is there's a reward when you graduate from Hvac University or from iTech. Could you give a little rundown on that?
Exactly. So we actually, there are two separate programs, the Isaac University Group Boot Camp program for employees of Isaac Heating. The successful graduates from there get a $500 allowance for purchase tools to begin their career, because unlike the military where you're issued your gear, most of the trades require you to purchase it on your own. So at least you get some money to start your career and get the right stuff and get off on a good path. On the Isaac Tech Decks side, which we are doing the construction trades program, the unpaid program, at the end of a successful 6 weeks, you're going to get a job. We've already got people lined up to hire you. You got to have tools. And we didn't pay you, and you've been getting in training. So what we found is the best way to do this is the graduates will get $750 worth of tools for them to be able to start a career, walk out day one ready to go.
Wow, that's great. Makes me want to jump into the program.
Well, love to have you.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Much appreciated. So is there a sponsorship program that somebody has to go through in order to become part of ITech?
So at ITech, we have many different programs. They're all on different tracks with different concepts. There is a sponsorship program right now. Our first program that we're looking to start in the very near future, we would have somebody sponsor someone to participate in this. This is not paid training, but it does not cost anything if you are accepted into the program. So our current program is it's a 6-week program. The benefit of this particular program that we're starting now is that we have already allied with local employers who have promised and committed to hire anyone who completes the 6-week program. So there's a job at the end of this.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, I imagine classrooms aren't going to actually be occupied until the whole COVID episode is over, and that can, I'm sure, be a little bit unpredictable at this point in time. We ourselves are trying to be as COVID compliant as we can, as you can see with our COVID shield that we have here between myself and Kevin. But anyway, Kevin, is there anything else you'd like to add about Isaac or about your iTech program that you think would be useful to the folks that are listening?
Please apply.
And if you're going to apply over at the Veterans Outreach Center here. If you are a veteran or an immediate family member of a veteran, for all intents and purposes, we can get you in here, and like he said, we can at least get an interview going. We would like very much if you would be kind enough to stop by anyway, just come and see our facility. We've had a lot of changes, and we are trying to adapt as much as humanly possible to the COVID situation. And our training programs are open as well as our doors. So please take advantage of that and come and see us. Kevin, I wanted to say thank you very much for coming here today, and appreciate everything you've done for us now and in the future. I'm sure that we're going to be working together.
I appreciate the opportunity. If you want to see us on the website, our iTech is www.isaac-tech.com. That's isaac-tec.com or at isacheating.com. Either one of those will get you to what we're doing out there.
Fantastic. You can always stop in at the Veterans Outreach Center and get further information if you need to. Love to hook you right in with these folks. Everyone, thank you so very much, and thanks very much for virtual VetNet. Take care.